Welcome to KiwaniTalk. I'm your host, Gary Gardner, with this very special episode. Over 30 years of KiwaniTalk. We are the longest running cable access program in the world. Normally we shoot our videos at Dearborn High School. It's the middle of the summer right now, so we're at my office, which is an undisclosed location on Ford Road in Dearborn. Today we're talking apropos to the season elections. It's going to be the fall election coming up in a few months. And to talk about the election, and a very particular important election, is the State Senate District number 2, and the candidate on the Republican ticket is Mr. Harry Sawicki. Harry, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you, Gary. Appreciate it very much.
Good to have you here. So
I appreciate everything else that the Kiwanis do. I'm sure everybody appreciates it.
Well, thank you. We try to do our best, and again, we're very blessed to be sponsored by our club and by the City of Dearborn Cable Commission, and we've been doing this for a while. We're proud of our record as, like I said, the longest running cable access program in the world.
That's fabulous.
So, but Harry Sawicki is running for office, but you didn't always do that. And this
No.
is, okay. How did Harry get to where he is today?
Well,
Where'd you grow up?
Well, I grew up in Dearborn Heights, the south end, and I live in Dearborn Heights, the north end right now. So, and for a while I lived in Detroit, and then at one point I actually left the country for about 8 months. I took a job out of the country.
Okay, what did you do in Detroit?
I was a police officer for about a little over 10 years.
Okay, that probably gave you some life experiences that a lot of people haven't had.
It did. It did. There was a lot going on. I worked up the street. I worked undercover. I worked through the court system, and I ended up in the photographic lab.
Okay, but that was. You look like you're older than having worked for more than 10 years. So what happened after you left DPD?
Well, after I left the DPD, I went through a couple of private security jobs. I was director of security for a company, and then at some other companies I added some other jobs to it in charge of maintenance and security. And eventually I worked to a position where I'm at now. I became self-employed about 20 years ago. I'm a manufacturer's rep. So I work for myself.
Okay. I work for myself. I tell people now at my stage I'm down to half days, just 9 to 9.
It's kind of funny, I call myself kind of semi-retired. It's anywhere from 20 to 60 hours a week.
And so you have that, and all of a sudden you're involved in politics. How did you get involved in politics? What brought you to, before you decided to run, what brought you into the political arena?
I think it started a long time ago. Like a lot of people, got tired of yelling at the TV on Sunday. So I ended up joining some of the local organizations here, and I sat around the first year and did a lot of listening and a lot of questioning before I opened my mouth up. And then once I got into it, and I've been involved in it. I've been a precinct delegate for a number of years. I've been on the state committee. I've been in different districts. There are different committees. And I've run for office before. A lot of times what happens is the party wants a filler. And I've done that where I just put my name on the ballot. This time I'm running because I want to make a difference of what's happening in our city, in these areas.
Okay, so everybody knows kind of about elections and representatives and senators. Michigan has 2 United States senators.
Yes.
But a lot more state senators.
Yes.
How many, there's like
20-some.
27, I think, 27 state senators. So your district is bigger than a House seat.
Yes.
22 years ago, I ran for state rep in the 15th district, which is most of everything in Dearborn, west of Outer Drive, most of Dearborn Heights. But your district is bigger. What's your district?
Well, I take in all of Dearborn Heights, Melvindale, Allen Park, and the north end of Taylor, north of Goddard Road.
And that's a pretty big
yes,
district.
Yes, it is. It's a new district.
And how do you, what made you run for this particular office this time?
Well, I've been talking to some people, and I've been active in the local party and stuff like that. And it came up, and I sat there and I thought about it, and I talked to my people that I know that have supported me in the past. And we decided that this is the time to do it because of the new district. There is no incumbent. So this is the time to do it. And with the way the country's going, I think this is a great time for Republicans.
There's a lot of stuff going on in the country, and there are a number of issues that are important to voters. And if we can start off with, what do you think is the most important issue to voters in Harry Sawicki's mind right now?
I have a series of items that I'm looking at. I mean, there's what my bases are, and then there's what I call hot issues.
Okay.
For instance, I think businesses are overregulated and overtaxed. And I think that shows when you drive down the street and see all these vacant buildings that businesses have been driven out. Okay?
But the people in the DSA would say that we need to take over the means of production and turn it over to the people to take care of that. How? Because you've been a manufacturer's rep. You understand how businesses, small or maybe medium or even large businesses work.
Yes.
How is that idea not really a realistic idea?
Well, I mean, we can go back to talk about the bread lines in Russia, you know, because if it's country or state-run, or country-run, whatever, they only produce so much, and there's no incentive to people to excel at anything. So you end up with junk, usually, and you aren't getting the production you need out of the people, because everybody is going to be paid the same no matter what happens. Whether the guy next to you does only 3 pieces and puts out 3 pieces a day and you do 30 pieces, you're both going to make the same amount of money. So it's not a fair society to live in.
Back to the businesses and the regulations. As a state senator, what impact can a state senator have on the business regulations?
Hopefully we can take a look at the current regulations. I mean, if we look at what Trump's done, he's dropped a lot of the regulations for businesses nationally, and it's helped the business across the country. He gave us the tax breaks, but what I'm seeing and talking to small business owners, and you talk to them about the regulations, and you talk about the taxes they've got to pay, it's amazing that how little they complain of what they got to do.
So in your career as a manufacturer's rep, do you see the impact of regulations on these businesses and how it impacts? How does that carry over? What do you see?
Well, what you see is they end up raising prices to cover everything. In other words, once the regulations are there, it's harder for them to get a business going. It costs them more money to operate. So in the long run, it affects, it costs me and you more money for their products.
Now, there will be people who say, well, we need the regulations to protect the environment, to make things equal for people to get into it. And how does you do the trade-off between protecting the environment and the business to make a profit, employ people, and provide services and goods at a reasonable cost?
Not all regulations are fair. I mean, I know recently that they removed when you stop your car, your engine goes off. They recently removed that. That was, I think, one of the stupidest things I've ever seen in my life. When your car stops, the engine stops. But there's too many regulations. It's like the gas mileage, how much gas mileage your car has to get. And it gets to the point where products cost too much. It's not a good thing. And the regulations hinder the growth of the business because it's going to cost them so much to meet the regulations.
Some people might argue that there's regulations in place for safety, like having...
Well, there is. Oh, yes,
Okay,
I agree with you. There are certain regulations that have to be there. It's like building regulations. You don't want a building to fall down, so you have to have certain regulations. But sometimes they get too onerous.
I give an example from California where you have the fires along the coast, and it's so expensive to build because first you can't get the permits. If you can't get the permits, you can't meet all the standards for reconstruction because they want you to do all these sort of things.
And how many houses have they rebuilt out there? Not very many.
Pacific Palisades, I don't think there's been any that have been fully rebuilt. So you have the business thing, and there's our future in our country is our children.
Absolutely, and that's a real concern of mine. Our scores, our national scores in reading and math, have constantly fallen over the last 8 years. And our children need to go back to the 3 R's. And along with that, phonics. Now, my understanding, I was told the other day that there's a new package that's gone through Lansing that includes the requirement for phonics, which is a great thing for people to learn how to read and write. We've got to get to the point where if they're not reading at a 4th grade level, they don't get promoted. They've got to be held back. And they've got to get to the point where they're reading properly for their grade level.
One of my children is a teacher, and she taught in parochial schools, a little more flexibility for the teachers, a little more discipline that the students were required to adhere to.
Right.
And there wasn't really there was a teachers union because the school was under an umbrella of her job was through a public school.
Okay.
But do you think that the education of the children of Michigan is really getting what it's worth because of the control that the unions have, and the priorities that the unions have, as opposed to the priorities for the kids?
You could say yes, and you could say no, because there's, like in any field, there's good teachers and there's bad teachers. But the unions do control a lot. And then the school boards, I mean, you look at administrations who had at one time, 6 people in administration, and now 5 years later they got 20 people in administration. So we're one of the highest states getting aid to our children for school. And we're not seeing the return on that money. So there's something wrong in here.
I've heard a national Senate candidate talk about Michigan's educational attainment has dropped to 46th in the country.
Either 45th, 46th, I can't remember. I know it's in the 40s. And the question is how did Mississippi get to be number 3?
What's the answer?
They used the voucher system because kids could go from the schools they want and the money would go there. I believe in the Michigan Constitution we can't use the voucher system, but perhaps there's a reason why we could take the taxes that person pays and set it to the school that the child's going to go to.
So you have the educational issue, and besides the 3 R's, what about the idea of shop classes? And I'll tell you.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, try to get a plumber, see what it costs you. You can't get them. How many days you got to wait? Plumbers, electricians, builders, that's all jobs that are not being filled right now.
I had a plumber come to my house. He was there for half an hour. He charged me $300. I told him, I'm a lawyer. I don't charge that kind of money. And what he told me, he said, when I practiced law, I didn't make that much money either. Yeah, but shop class, one of the best classes I ever took in high school. I took electrical shop class, and there are kids that were taking the mechanical shop classes and building classes, and those things are important because AI is here and it's going to be around, but there's a limit on what it can do.
And it can't wire your house.
Right, not yet, but not anyway like that. So there's also an interplay in Michigan, and people talk about gun rights and controlling they call them the automatic weapons or semi-automatics. What's your take on the Second Amendment and how it was written and how it applies?
As a former police officer, I strongly support the Second Amendment, and I think Michigan has to have constitutional carry again. We used to have it, and through regulations, we've lost almost everything.
Okay, so there's two buzzwords there: constitutional carry. Tell our viewers what constitutional carry really means.
Well, constitutional carry gives everybody, almost everybody, the right to carry a gun. You don't have to go through all these regulations and everything else. You still get permits to purchase and so forth. Or you don't even need permits to purchase. You can purchase a gun as long as you're not, I think there's certain restrictions, criminals and so forth. But anybody can carry a gun. And people say it's going to be like the old West. It's not going to be. There's states that have it. We don't have gunfights on the street. And if they have gunfights, it's because somebody that's been a bad guy is getting shot at by a good guy.
Generally. So the Second Amendment is an amendment to the Constitution. The First Amendment, which people talk about, is the freedom of speech.
Yes.
I don't need a license to set up a soapbox on a corner and orate.
Right.
And the same theory applies to freedom of speech. People will talk about, well, they didn't have automatic weapons in 1789 when they made the Constitution, but they didn't also have the internet to get your word around the world either. So as times change, does freedom of speech still hold up as Article 1, or Amendment number 1? And should Amendment number 2, the right to carry, what's your opinion on generally on the Constitution and amending the Constitution and adherence to the principles?
There's no way we're going to amend the Constitution. It's there. I support our right to free speech. I support our right to carry guns.
Okay. Well, we're going to continue our conversation with Harry Sawicki, candidate for the state Senate district in the November election. The district, if you're somewhere in Dearborn, Dearborn Heights, Allen Park, Melvindale, or Taylor north of Goddard Road, Harry's the man. Don't go away. We continue our conversation right after this.
There must be a lot of love out there in the world, at least if you think of all the things people say they love. But it's funny. Sometimes the things we love the most are the ones we don't talk about often enough. I mean, the things that bring true change to a child's life, to a community, to the people who come together and make change happen. Think about what you love about your club. Think about the children it reaches. Think about the pride it gives you. And think about this. Thousands of Kiwanians around the world love being members of their clubs too. So think about what could happen if we all shared our Kiwanis stories. After all, there's a million things to love in the world, but there's nothing like a love that makes the world better. So show it, share it, let the world know.
Welcome back to KiwaniTalk. I'm your host, Gary Gardner, where we're talking about politics as naturally happens every other year between August and November. And I'm very pleased that we have with us today Harry Sawicki, who's running for the state Senate in the 2nd District, which is Dearborn, Dearborn Heights, Allen Park, Melvindale, and Taylor, north of Goddard Road. Harry, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
So there's a number of items that are really hot in Harry Sawicki's mind. What's going on? Before we do that, people want to get a hold of you. What's your website?
My website is harrysawicki4senate.org.
And guess what? By the miracle of television, it's right here. We can't see it from this angle, but it's there right in front of us, so that's good. So, what are some of the hot button issues that Harry Sawicki has?
In talking with the different people that I've been talking to on the street and when I, in the different areas, data centers, of course, has been a hot issue for a lot of people and so forth. I think that we need to get better educated on the data centers. We need them for our future, okay? But I think data centers need to be self-sustaining. So
what do you mean by self-sustaining?
Well, produce their electricity, clean their own water up.
Okay.
And we should be looking at better places to put them, to locate them, so they're not next to houses and things like that. Because we've got land that's not being used, that's far from anybody else, that would probably make a better choice to locate these at.
Okay. And I'm glad you recognize how important the data centers are, because AI, as we talked earlier, it's here.
Yeah.
And it's here to stay.
Well, Texas has over 120 data centers right now.
Okay.
And I have no idea how many China is building. We sure don't want to be sending our data through China.
Right. It's not a good thing.
No.
So we also have an issue about immigration.
Yes.
Talk about your feelings on immigration.
Well, I get upset that a lot of the illegal aliens now get better benefits than the veterans or other people on Social Security, okay? They get free room and board, they get free health care, and they're getting money. My dad's wife is living on $1,100 a month, and she's got to pay for her own medical bills. And it's just not fair to veterans. The same thing, a lot of veterans, they aren't getting the benefits. It's just not fair to U.S. citizens who put the time in and either serve this country or have lived there and born here their whole life.
There's a thought, too, is that the cost of housing is an intangible cost, because finite number of houses and apartments increase the number of people who need to occupy those houses. The
Right.
landlords and owners with high demand, low supply, what happens to the price?
Yep, goes up.
So everybody's paying the price. And when you go to the emergency rooms, and when I go in and I go to a hospital, I have to sign my name, here's my insurance information, but you don't need to have that to go to the hospital because they have to treat you, and when you walk out the door, you and I walk out, we have a bill.
Yep, and they walk out and it's free.
Right, so
It's
how
just
do you address that though? What do you do for that? Because isn't that a national sort of issue?
It is. It is a national. It's not something that I would have control over, but I think it's just people have to be aware of it that this is happening, and that people are suffering from this.
What about again the overall cost of health care, and it goes back to regulations, health care, and how does that all intertwine?
What I'm seeing right now, I'm getting a lot of questions, and people are talking about health care for all. Okay, it's a nice thought, but there's some things you have to realize when we talk about health care for all. And once again, it's not something that as a state person I can regulate, but it may come back to states regulating it, but based upon a national policy of health care.
So what would you like to see?
Well, the problem is, if you start looking, let's say, you look at Canada, who has a national health care policy. When I worked downtown for a company, I had several people that worked for me that were working for me that were from Canada, and I would say, why are you coming over here to work? And they were coming over for the health care, the benefit of our health care system. If you're going to Canada, I've got the situation here. I was reading this one story about a lady that took 6 years to get surgery on her knee. She went into the hospital after 6 years finally. They operated on her, and they had some complications, so it had to be closed up by a special surgeon. So they took her from the hospital she was in, the surgery center, sent her to a hospital and said, we'll bring you back later today, and we'll sew it up. Well, it ends up a doctor wasn't available. And 8 days later, they finally move her over. And of course, you've had an open surgery wound for 8 days. What have you got? You've got a lot of festering going on there. And it ended up she lost her leg. Because the question was, is it cheaper to cut her leg off or to try to fix her up? And because the government makes the decision was to cut her leg off.
Plus, when you have the government-controlled health care in Canada, I think one of the leading causes of death in Canada now is assisted suicide. And why would they want to do that, Harry? Because it's cheaper to give someone an easy out as opposed to
going through all the medication and tests and surgery, whatever it is. And the other thing, people keep talking about Denmark, about how great Denmark is. Denmark does have a socialized medicine program. But you have to go back and look at what's going on there. In order to have health care in Denmark, you lose 30 to 50% of your income to the state for that. If you want dental care, you have to buy dental care. If you want faster service, you have to pay for extra fast service. But they've got a nice system. But 30 to 50% of your income gone for health care? Is that something you want here?
It's pretty high cost.
It is.
People always complain about the utilities, the DTEs and the consumer powers. What's your take on those?
Well, DTE has a program for carbon emission over by 2035 something down to 85%. My problem is they're going to solar and wind and gas only. Solar and wind is extremely expensive. The efficiency is not there. Plus, you got to remember, we have the Michigan Grays here for 5 months. What good is solar, and how efficient is it in the wintertime for us? And do we really have that much wind here?
There's a lot up in Lansing.
Well, but there's no talk in here in this policy about nuclear. And there should be a discussion about nuclear power, which is the most efficient and the most cost-effective way to get power. If they go ahead with the plans that they've got, our cost is going to double or even triple or better.
So what would your solution be then?
Then we got to add nuclear to this and back away from the solar and the wind. Now, some people like solar panels, which is fine if you want to put one on your house and reduce your electric bill there. But overall, to put that many panels out there, we've got farmers that are taking farmland and putting solar farms on it. And that's good land for growing. Why are we taking, land away from farmers which supply us our food. Of course, then less fields, the higher the price.
Right. So we're down to the last couple of minutes here. So let's talk about your campaign, Harry. What have you learned from your prior campaigning that you're applying towards the current campaign? What are you doing?
Well, I've got a committee helping me out. I'm finishing up my Facebook page. I'm finishing up my web page. I'm going to start going out and talking to people door to door and doing things like this, talking to people, letting them know where I stand and my stands are. It's going to be whatever I have to do, I'm going to be doing.
When you talk to people, you get the feedback from them. What are the biggest issues that people are feeding back to Harry Sawicki?
Well, I've talked about them here. These are the ones that I've talked to people and so forth. That's why I call them the hot issues. I have my standard issues, then I have the hot issues. And the hot issues, like I say, have been the data centers, the DTE, and then of course there's term limits. You know, in Michigan here we have term limits. We should have federal term limits when we look at what's in Congress right now.
Problem with federal term limits is a little thing called the Constitution, which would require an amendment.
Yes.
To change that.
Yep.
Michigan changed it through, they changed the term limits through legislation.
Yes.
Rather than a constitutional amendment.
Yep.
So that's all good. So for Harry Sawicki for Senate.org, that's your website.
Yes.
You got a phone number too.
I do. I'm available at area code 313-359-4977. I have a Facebook page also. It says Harry Sawicki for Senate number 2.
At Gmail.
My Gmail is Harry Sawicki, the number 4, Senate 2 at Gmail.
So when you first started politicking, all these websites, all of these Facebook pages, the phone number sounds familiar, but a lot of things have changed, haven't it?
It has. It's come a long ways. How you could advertise.
Yeah.
And get your name out there.
How do you think you're getting your name out? What are you going to do to get out to the younger voters, especially?
I think it's face to face, talking to people, one on one. It makes a big difference.
Okay.
It's got to be that one on one contact.
So, Harry Sawicki running for State Senate District number 2. The election in November. We are down in the last 30 seconds. What do you want to tell the people about how important it is to be out there and voting? It's
important that I get elected. I need your vote to get elected. I need your financial support to get elected. And I hope you understand what my issues are, that I'm trying to work for you.
Well, Harry Sawicki, I wish you all the best. And I'm really glad that you're running.
Well, thank you.
I'm really glad I'm not running this year. but
you've run before.
I wish you all the best, Harry.
Well,
Good luck
thank
to you.
Okay.
Remember that people in our country have a right to vote, and it's sad that people don't vote as many as they do. Primary election in Dearborn, 30% of the people voted. That's terrible. It's not good. It's important to you. If you have something that you want to say or complain about, you have lost that right if you don't get out and vote in the primary and the general. I'm Gary Gardner. See you on Election Day. Bye-bye.